Nice. All right. I guess it does work. Is there a delay? Nice. Okay, okay. So that's how people do it. All right. Well, let's go. The usual crew. Awesome. Lord Charles Odo, Blaine Morgan. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint, but I'll be back in a few hours for the official stream. But this was just to make sure there weren't any technical difficulties, unexpected shortcomings. So I don't know how much longer I want to keep streaming, but it is cool to be back. The desk is pretty messy right now. And I guess so am I, technically. So yeah, man, it's been a while. Well, there's a lot to get into, but I don't want to get into that just yet. I don't want to spoil it. Lots happened, let me get out all my awkwardness, my drawing a blank. Let me just get all that off of for this stream, and then for tomorrow I can be ready to go. So yeah, we'll be going over some things. If you guys watch David Green, the distributist, we'll be covering some similar territory as his last video, as far as I know, last video. So if anyone wants a preview tomorrow's stream, we'll be going over that. So people can see this on Twitter. That's pretty cool. Is this, I know the Prudentialist and Geo, they got like, oh, okay, there it is. Awesome. So it is the same thing. Yeah, I noticed on Twitter you get that pink thing at the top. So let me all righty. Hey, Cody Browning, Paul W. Hall. Awesome, awesome. Well, at the top, I said tomorrow's the official stream. This is just to make sure I didn't like get in a suit, get my hair done, and then I go to turn the laptop on and there's all these complications. So I'm breaking my Zoomer heritage and getting organized, being productive, things my generation has to learn to do in their post-adolescent life. So awesome. This looks great. I like that it's this convenient. I thought I set it up last time, but I noticed there was a little difference. So I guess people can I guess if they're scrolling, they can find, I guess this comes up on Twitter. I know it pulls up at the top like a space, but I'm curious if people scroll, because I would see like the Prudentialist and Geo. It seemed like they would have almost like a tweet in that format. So I'm curious if anybody sees that on their timeline. Won't be able to watch it live if it's tomorrow. Yeah, no worries. Probably around I don't know, what's a good time? Like 3 p.m. my time is like 6 p.m. Eastern. So that's like evening-ish for them, afternoon for me. New YouTube notifications. Okay, thank you, Cody. That's cool. Okay, but this is the Twitter. This is also on Twitter for just in case. Well, that's great. I'm glad it wasn't a hassle. Oh, okay, yeah, this guy said yeah, somebody liked the tweet. Okay, so it is visible. Excellent. Very cool. Can I like can I talk about anything without spoiling tomorrow's stream? Can't post comments to some destinations. Okay. Yeah, some destinations won't get comments. Okay, I hope I can see all your guys's comments on the side. I think that's just telling me for Twitter. Like Twitter, I would have to like manually check probably. That's pretty cool. Yeah, just if you guys tuned into this distributed stream this week, that'll be similar to tomorrow. I'm also okay. Well, I guess I can hint rather than talk about it. We're gonna get into our old buddy, Academic Agent. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And I hope I don't come across as obsessive because, to be honest, it probably would have been more timely to do a stream the week it was happening. I think somebody may have left a comment saying to do a stream, and I used the Twitter Spaces as a substitute to sum up things like that. So I think, given the things in the last month, there's plenty to go over. So, and if you guys can think of anything, also comment for tomorrow because I'm probably going to forget some things and I may get too caught up in certain topics. So if I'm ever leaving anything out, please remind me because I will forget something. You talk about no enemies to the right. Yeah, I could talk about that. That would. Thank you, Cody. That would be a. I wasn't planning on fully going into that for tomorrow. There's other things, probably more relevant. AA going that way. Reacting to reaction videos. What was that? Was that this week or was that back then? I did try to tune into his Elon Musk video just in case he talked about me, but he did have some cool takes, I will admit. See, that's the difference between somebody like me and some of these blood sports era characters. You know, even if like they don't like me, I would still like probably recommend somebody their best videos or point them in the right direction, regardless of the reputation. So I still love him. I still love Academic Agent, but gosh, the timeline is really something. Talk about boomer truth regime. But yeah, no enemies to the right. To be honest, I messed up my Twitter space. I was overwhelmed by all the articles it was taking me to. The American Conservative magazine, Rod Dreher, the Thomas affair, that other guy, the one who I think was associated with Stephen Wolfe, the author of the Christian Nationalist book. And I was gonna just sum up the whole situation, and then I realized, oh my goodness, look at all this lore that it's actually wrapped up in. You got all these characters from different corners, and that just kind of shows how overly complicated a lot of the right is. Why does it have to be this complicated? But I think that's mostly because the right is basically going through an identity crisis. You got like people that are effectively libertarian trying to make sense of the real dissidents, and people like Nightmare Vision, Prudentialist, Geo, they had a much better space. And we had some cool people for the one this week, but they had a very concise, and I think Prudentialist posted his video, so that was very insightful. Yo, let's go. Thank you, Cody. I appreciate it. I'm just glad this thing works, man. I'm glad I can talk to you guys and it's not this hassle. And Jack with the Ezra Pound PDF. I got this Bowden book from the American Renaissance Conference, Reactionary Modernism, and they're going through Lewis, and Ezra Pound might be in there too. some of those guys I don't like fully endorse, even Bowden himself, if I'm being honest. I'm also kind of going through this, I'm falling out of love with Nietzsche. And it's also connected to all these other like pagan, reactionary, like non-American intellectual types. Um, that's not to say I won't read some of them, but I'm starting to kind of see the limitations of it, and it makes for an interesting thought experiment. The idea that a lot of the European intellectuals are some of them seem to fall out of the Christian Western canon, and they seem to kind of pave their own road, which I'm kind of seeing the limits of. So yeah, I guess that's why I don't talk about Bowden or Lewis Pound on the show. I know I kind of started out of the gate with basically trying to build off of pulp fascism, but it's an interesting kind of arc. I'm kind of maybe building off of that and doing like a better, more American, more Christian version. Same with Birth of Tragedy, etc. So just to be completely transparent, those are some developments I've had in the last few months. And it's hard to explain that without sounding like, oh, I'm not going to read, or not like that. Like, I don't want to even like name certain things or even like reference some of the books, because I don't even know if that would be accurate to even relate it to that. If I'm kind of getting away from that territory, then maybe it's best to just celebrate the more optimistic figures and books, content, philosophy. It's probably better to just like talk about that rather than say, here's why what I used to be into is kind of boring or unfulfilling. So it's a little bit messy, and I'm a young guy too, so it's hard to like fully articulate why exactly I'm falling out of love with a lot of those people I used to cite. But I know the right is pretty broad, and so it's not really going to be this big realization, this big enlightenment of, oh, we're not going to be talking about Evla anymore. Gosh, what a letdown. We're probably all kind of getting out of that headspace more broadly. But yeah, hey, Mutants. Shout out to Mutants. Rest in peace to the Twitter account. But Mutant is still on YouTube, last I checked. So Mutants YouTube channel. Don't be discouraged by the Twitter absence. This guy has got some videos out there, and I was checking them out. Not this week, but I was going through them a while ago, and so I want to shout out, one of my favorite people. Let me catch up with chat here. Nietzsche's good read, but not foundation of the church. Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. And I don't want to sound like, oh my goodness, man, like I'm offended, like this guy's. But I kind of, it's almost the same thing I kind of wanted to address with like my heavy metal identity. There's this entertainment factor that's maybe an interest or just a hobby, but maybe I want to assign it a bigger value. But there's a limitation with that in and of itself. There's not a full religious identity there. So it's about putting all that into perspective, kind of just reorganizing all the different identities, political, philosophical, religious. And maybe some of the hobbies get too much forced into those categories. So that's what I'm trying to say. Kind of a sloppy explanation, but hopefully I'm coming across well. Entertaining to read, has some great points, but I don't think there's too much there for Christian to salvage. Yeah, exactly, Paul. Exactly. Thank you. America is, or rather was, fundamentally speaking, Protestant Anglo-Saxon. Anything that breaks out of that mold is disingenuous, I think. Yeah, and especially with some of the Europeans who try to impose European ideology onto America. I think, Jack, we would agree that's very not just LARPy on the surface, but it's just inappropriate. Thomas had that line about, this is not Germany, Britain, etc. American identitarian politics is not going to look like 1930s, 20s radical politics, because we're better than that, honestly. I mean, ideology-wise, we need Striper Christian Metal Nash. So true, so true. Hopefully, this channel's the epicenter of such an idea. Yo, let's go. Yeah, Mutant. I will be here until the end, no matter what path you take. Yo, let's go. Let's go. America First Catholicism is. Oh, Jack. No. No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, maybe Catholicism in America is historically pushed in a Protestant direction, since, like you said, radical WASP culture is the foundation. But I guess that's where my religious identity tries to compete with my political identity. So yeah, I see what you're saying. But what else we got? Can't have 30s radical European politics in the USA because our people aren't built for that. Exactly. Man. Well, hey, Jack. Maybe we got to fix that. Maybe that's the goal in this century. Maybe we flip the script and we turn a corner. It would be a big challenge, but something to think about. What was up here? Oh, the Striper. Yeah. What's it called? Not Fallen. What's the other album? No More Hell to Pay. No More Hell to Pay. Oh my goodness, what an album! And what's the Saved by Love? Is that the song? Let me search it on YouTube. Save. That is Saved by Love. Oh my goodness, look that up if you get the chance. No More Hell to Pay. I know the title track is kind of what you would expect, but that's almost like a comeback album. So yeah, thank you. Hey, yo, Mutant knows. Let's go. My goodness. Yeah, because I like Fallen. It is a very clean album. But that's pretty good too. I guess that's kind of in the same ballpark. Let me try to remember. What were those other ones that were more... What do we got? Second, oh, that's a song. Excuse me, rather. Okay, I think there was like a gap. There was a gap because they had the Covering, and then they had an album in 2009. But later on, they had like No More Hell to Pay, Fallen. So yo, American Elitist, shout out American Elitist. Very cool. So all right. Well, I don't want to. What do you call it? I don't want to overstay my welcome and bore people. So tomorrow, for those that missed it, tomorrow the show will be back. I have a lot to get into. Going to be talking about the limits of academic agent. Maybe should I title it Against Academic Agent like Heath Woods? That would be pretty funny. That would be something. No, I don't think that would probably be a little too petty, but that's just a funny idea. I'm going to be getting into some of my trips to LA, some interesting experiences. And what else? That'll probably take up the bulk of the show. If you guys can remind me of anything that's happened in the past month, let me know. Obviously, you have like this Elon Musk ADL war being waged online. Very cool stuff. Is that space still going on? You got Keith Woods co-hosting that space. This is like the year of Keith Woods. This guy's, I mean, come on. How can you not revel in some of the content there? What else? Ace, are you what the? Oh, somebody's asking me about this live stream. Classic brown vibe. Yeah, yeah. How about that? Let me verify with this guy if this looks good on Twitter so that we don't have to worry about it tomorrow. I really need to adopt the 15 minutes early to everything rule. So I don't ever catch myself in a tricky situation. I could go in there, yeah, but I couldn't see anyone but you. Nice. Okay. He says it works. Yeah, AA. My goodness. He's from being banned on Twitter to having Elon being his reply guy or so. Exactly. It's like it takes an older person to look at that and to delve into conspiracy. Oh, this is sus. Oh, this has nothing to do with us because these people have baggage. It takes an older person to see like a young guy having a victory lap and he's like, me. Of course, of course. By the way, does anybody have that new book of his? I don't mean to sound desperate, but if anybody has that new book, I am curious. See, this is what I mean by like, even if the guy is like totally out to get me, not out to get me, but like just completely being snarky on the timeline, me personally. Um, I would be still interested to like check out his content and what he's up to. So I'm just curious if anybody, because I remember there was like a PDF of what was the first book he put out, or not first because he's got a bunch. What was the last book before this one? I can't even think of it. My goodness, excuse me. But yeah. Did I not finish what I? Cody was asking about No Enemies to the Right. Populist Delusion. Thank you, D. Irreverent. Yeah, yeah. I remember I saw like a PDF in like a Discord channel, but to be honest, I lost where that was, so I don't even know where I could find that. So if anybody can find that for me, I would like to go through some of that. And then also the new book, but I don't have it. I was just curious if anybody had like a hookup. But anyway, to get Cody to answer your question fully, are you cross streaming? Like, who are you talking to? Oh, excuse me. So yeah, the No Enemies to the Right was MySpace. Apologies for anybody who was there. That was a little rough. Also not very coherent because there's too much lore to get into. Prudentialist's video was miles ahead of it. But yeah, James Lindsay. And I think a lot of people are confused by like the position that Chris Rufo and Charles Haywood are relative to James Lindsay and intellectual dark web types. But I just remember two other people, but I want to save that for tomorrow. Separate topic. Yeah, Haywood seems to effectively be doing the right thing. And Rufo, it's cool to even have that space take place at all. Whereas somebody like Shapiro won't exactly have even representation on his Twitter space this morning. So you can kind of see the contrast there. That's a nice dichotomy. You know, Shapiro and a bunch of rabbis talking about Elon Musk versus Rufo bringing that Neil guy to confront Haywood. To me, that's like two Twitter spaces in the same week. You know, one is, and again, not to defend everything Rufo's done, because obviously he has a limit, but to see where the pros and cons, and then how that's a step forward from Shapiro, Daily Wire type content. You know, you got Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles saying correct things, but then there's this ceiling. And so Rufo space, I guess we should be grateful that it happened at all, but obviously there was, you know, they were being very vague and making it this abstract topic when they should just talk about, you know, right-wing people disproportionately get censored and aren't even on the same platforms as the left, the gatekeepers. And so people like Neil, and who is the other guy, Local Distance, all these people that people take for granted, these guys pop up on their timelines and they act like they're their representatives. That's the whole problem with all of this stuff. These guys, you just have to question their background and where they're coming from, because a lot of them are just the latest iteration of William F. Buckley. It's the same stuff that happened in the 90s in search of anti-Semitism, William F. Buckley, gatekeeping of Mel Bradford, Sam Francis. This is the iteration of it. Ben Shapiro being the alleged representative of young people, and the guy's like 30 years old. Charlie Kirk, same story, like late 20s, early 30s-ish. Same playbook. And people might get their hopes up because Charles Haywood looked really good in that space, but this topic wasn't even fairly addressed within their own space. So, I mean, think about the fact that you have to migrate to a space with Nightmare Vision, Prudentialist, Geo. It's like, yeah, they want to point out how we're all on Twitter. You have a constitutional right to, you think you have a constitutional right to be on the internet? You guys get to talk all day long. Look, you know, you got all these alternative tech platforms. What are you guys complaining about? Because it's obviously not an even fight, you know. So ridiculous, you know. Freedom to say it isn't freedom from consequences. Oh, okay, so there's no free speech. That's what that means. That's no different than Antifa that wants to say they want to punch Nazis. Well, you know, it's not, don't expect people to get upset. Give me a break. He's 39? My goodness. Okay. But yeah, no enemies to the right. Yeah. Thank you, American elitists. Yeah, it's basically a cool principle. But yeah, I guess that's the most of the relevant stuff with that topic. All right, did I miss anything here? What do we got here? Rufa has to have certain optics because of his family. I don't expect him to go full, yeah, Naboo, full Naboo. So true. Got to watch out. Yeah, American versus Europe. Yeah, we got it. This European stuff is such a LARP. We got it. That stuff is just not, that's not how politics works anymore. Identity Europa, all this cringe, like relics of the 2017 poll, you know, people on the wrong side of the optics war. All that stuff's just it's outlived its usefulness. You know, people understand it when it's IDW. They don't understand it when it's people they used to watch. So it always looks like a rock in the boat, just like my fight with Academic Agent. I guess I shouldn't get too much into it. I'm spoiling all my talking points. But yeah, it's, you know, I'm like rocking the boat a little bit on that. But that was basically a personal fight. That wasn't like, it wasn't like tearing down the whole dissident right movement. You know, this guy just like rags on Zoomers for months, probably years at this point, and it's like one person speaks up and says, hey, that's kind of messed up. Whoa, are you disavowing all these people? Or so what you're clearly you're in one side of this camp and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, this is just like you're the one that's clicked up. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really part of not to sound like that, but I'm just like doing my thing. I never really provoke people. I don't even tweet every day. I'm not like a partisan person on the timeline. So like if I comment and I'm like, hey, this is a little messed up, don't be like, oh, it's your faction versus my faction. If you have to resort to that, to me, that sounds like you're just you're trying to like call all your buddies to like, you're trying to like assemble like an army to be like, okay, well, this is my guy, my guy, my guy. What do you got? And it's like, okay, well, this has really gotten beyond the discussion and you're turning it into this, well, my faction versus your faction. And not to say people can't be part of factions, but like if you have to resort to, well, I'm on this side. Oh, okay. So you're not even going to talk to me like a good faith guy. When they say things like, well, you're not a serious person. Oh, well, you're just defending this guy. So this is a long-winded attempt to just say, you like Nick, you like Keith. It's just like a Zoomer put down. So, anyways, I'm saying too much. The Euros need to learn no enemies to the right. Oh, no enemies to the west. Excuse me, I misread that. Also, A's arguments against Zoomers are so weak. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not practical to like wage war against the people that are basically going to inherit the stuff that you built, right? I mean, it's just, even if you were secretly resentful, don't like, but he has no incentive to not do that. So and it's all these guys that aren't Christian, aren't American, it's all these guys that want to basically do this, they don't have that charity. They don't have that like goodwill, reaching across the aisle in a good way, not in like a political two-party sense. Like, hey, just put the pride aside, put the personal beef. You don't have to rag on anybody. People like Greg Johnson and Spencer, they're able to do that because they lost everything or they got doxxed. And so they're not competing in those ecosystems. And so you're able to get a more sober analysis from them. But all these guys that are clearly clicked up or part of a faction or sympathetic to one side, those are the ones that have a bigger incentive to say, us versus you, go, you guys, I'm discrediting you. You guys dox people. You guys are malicious. These people can't be trusted. We've seen you all before, all that kind of talk. It's like, to say that to somebody like me, I'm not even really that partisan controversial. I don't go into a space and be like, are you talking smack about this person? Well, I'll have you know this, and then list out all the good things they do. Like, I don't do that. I don't police people's stuff. But clearly, some of these older folks have an axe to grind. So, okay, this was too much. This is me like turning it into a Twitter space now. Okay. It's all a psyop for Eastern Pagan. Oh, exactly, dude. I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you. Just because post-liberals critique the Nietzschean right doesn't mean, just because they critique it in like a post-liberal way doesn't mean it's above criticism, people that they're going after. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people and that was kind of said in I think it was the Prudentialist Twitter space that's on YouTube, talking about, hey, all this stuff about showboating, treating it like 2017 era blood sports. Maybe we got to ease up on that and be a little more intellectual, more, start acting like you're part of the mainstream, this establishment mentality, because if it's just this ragtag group of people from Poll that migrated to Twitter, that's all it's ever going to be. It's this online movement. But all these people stuck in the 2017 and, the people that were doing the, pagan Nietzschean thing. And I'm not, that doesn't include everybody. That I'm just saying this is a type. And if you stick to just the online like shit posting and you don't have anything outside of that, obviously there's a philosophical limitation to that. not to say, oh, it sounds like you're talking about somebody I like. Don't worry about that. That's not the it's not the point I'm making. It can apply to that. It's compatible with that argument, but I'm talking about something else. And everybody's gonna watch who they're gonna watch. So like who cares if my take is that? But not caring who Michelle Pfeiffer is not the problem with Zoomers. Well, in a way it kind of is, because I do agree with AA. The fact that, and he was talking about this with Spencer, the fact that Zoomers are not cultured even within their own national heritage, yeah, that is a big problem. That's how they get sucked into politics. That's how they get sucked into LGBT, liberalism, feminism. That's how they basically develop their political identity to the detriment of all the other ones, religion, different types of right-wing identity. That applies, when it's a liberal college student, we understand it, but that also applies to like people on the right who get all swept up in politics. Every Twitter space is like a blood sports fight, this faction versus this faction. And so it's the same type of problem, but on the right. And but also like not having like that pop culture art critic approach. I feel like that does make people, not having that makes you like antisocial, and it keeps you in this bubble of politics or death. It's very limited, and it creates bad content. Calling it different civilization page. Be for your guys. There you go. All right. I don't want to. I'm not a partisan. Yeah, I hope that doesn't sound like I don't mean to sound like I'm not actually political. Like, but seriously though, like I like when I meet people who have seen my show, it seems to always be, oh, I saw that horror movie video you did with Thomas, right? You guys got like a pop culture thing going on. You got it's not quite like a pundit show. It's not Tucker Carlson Tonight. And that's the goal. And it's not even to like have plausible deniability, although that's a benefit. It's that sincerely is the direction that I think I can excel at. If I'm trying to like copy night owls, or if I'm trying to copy streamers, or be the next commentator, like you see Turning Point hires all these college girls and guys to be ambassadors. I don't want to do that because it's very tacky and it's just very LARPy. I think I could probably do it, to be honest, but that's not really my interest. It's like going from a journalism major to a communications major. Like, well, what is the difference between these two? Well, they are different. You're talking about different stuff, and the approach is different, less partisan. I'll probably repeat this tomorrow, but I used to think Sam Huntington and Robert Putnam were selling themselves short by talking about pop culture through a anthropological lens. And I'm like, why don't these guys get into the political arena and like give all the nationalist talking points? Well, if you do that, you become a political guy, and then the books you write are not anthropological, they're not historical, they're not philosophical, it's political. And so you've basically chosen to do you have less leg room in this very specific category. So why would you do that? I wanted Sam Huntington and Robert Putnam to be Sam Francis and Buchanan, but those are two different paths. And I'm starting to see why the former is more palatable for me personally. So obviously I support all the guys that are doing the activism, commentary stuff, but I don't think this show is really that, or really ever was that. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that doesn't sound like a long-winded way to say I'm not a racist. This is like me sweating under the lights of a Vice journalist interview. So here's why I'm actually on your side. I hope it doesn't sound like that. Okay, this went on for way too long. This was supposed to be a 5-minute space, so we're wrapping this up. I'm gonna skim through these last few comments. If I missed it, type it right now before I click this button to end the stream. And so, hey, I guess you guys got a little epilogue here. Zoomers don't really have a culture. Yeah, exactly. Boomer actors are not our national culture or heritage. Yeah, Lords, you're right, Charles. And in making that distinction, I know I haven't been very transparent with that. The American cultural figures versus, obviously, there's metaphysics and philosophy is bigger than all of this entertainment stuff. So I don't want it to sound like I'm doing idolatry, and hopefully I'm not engaging with that. I know it doesn't sound like it sometimes, but it's about just putting all that into perspective. You know, this, I think I said in the last stream, you know, this is the show where, you know, other people talk about Nietzsche, talk about paganism, how the right needs to grow teeth, etc. And it's interesting, but, you know, this is the show, this is an American pop culture show that, you know, quietly supports the activists outside of it. But substance wise, you know, this is the American, you know, pro-Catholic, pro-Christian, getting into philosophy, getting into movies, and more like very different from 2017 activism, but very similar to the Trevor Lynch, Morgoth, Geo, you know, more so in that school of thought. You know, nobody is saying we're not fully political, but we focus on this more like philosophy, pop culture side. But yeah, you know, we are saying, I am saying here, Christ is better than Apollo. You know, when we're talking about Nietzsche, it's not because we actually secretly want to become part of this, you know, foreign ideology, foreign religion. It's about like, no, but I'm an American, and I may not make it totally clear why I go over such a eclectic group of things that don't really seem connected, but it's about putting it into perspective so that people my age can find a little space to call our own in this wide coalition of the right. So all right, that's probably the appropriate note to end on, and hopefully a transparent note to end on in case there's any ambiguity. Let me skim one last time in case I missed anything. People are chatting away in the comments. Well, thank you guys. I'm glad just a impromptu, off the cuff stream can at least get more than one person to stroll in. So yeah, okay. This is probably the best post of the night. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you. Pretty much the thesis of the show. Pretty much the thesis of what I would like to see in the next few years. I'm not even going to scroll up anymore because it's such a definitive statement to end on. All right. I'm sorry, Michael. Don't worry. You don't have to study. Hopefully this was enough. And Mutant, see you tomorrow, Ace. Sun seems disturbed by subversion outside. Fair enough. Well, all right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm glad this works on Twitter and YouTube. If you guys want to check out tomorrow's stream, probably around 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. I sound like Nick now. Okay. We'll be back tomorrow. Maybe later, though. It might be more evening-ish for East Coasters. Might be more evening-ish for West Coast people. So 3 to 5 p.m., somewhere around that. And I'll have my camera on tomorrow. So that's the deal. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be talking about Academic Agent, some LA shenanigans, I guess the right, more broadly, Twitter stuff, I'd imagine. So I think that's about it. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow.